One moment on a basketball court changed two men forever. It was December 9th, 1977. A single punch shocked the entire sports world. But this would not be the only thing Kermit Washington would become known for. Years later, he would go to federal prison for stealing money from a charity he started. This is the story of a man whose name will always be linked to violence and fraud. Washington was born on September 17, 1951. He was a good basketball player. The Los Angeles Lakers picked him fifth in the 1973 NBA draft. He was known for his strong defense. But none of that matters now. What matters is what happened on that winter night in Los Angeles. It was the third quarter of a regular game between the Lakers and the Houston Rockets. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar missed a shot. Houston player Kevin Cunnert got the ball. Then Cunnert and Washington got into a fight near the middle of the court. Some say Washington grabbed Cunnert's shorts. Others say Cunnert elbowed Washington first. Either way, Washington started throwing punches at Cunnert. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tried to break up the fight. He grabbed Cunnert to pull him away. That is when Rudy Tomjanovich came running toward the fight. Tomjanovich was the captain of the Houston team. Most people say he was trying to be a peacemaker. He wanted to stop the fight. Washington saw Tomjanovich coming at him fast. He later said he just saw a blur. He turned around and threw a terrible right-hand punch. It hit Tomjanovich square in the face. The sound was awful. Abdul-Jabbar said it was like a melon being dropped onto concrete. Tomjanovich fell to the floor at once. He was knocked out. He lay there in a pool of his own blood. The injuries to Tomjanovich were very bad. His face bones were broken. His jaw was broken. His nose was broken. The bones in his face were not just broken. They were completely separated from his skull. He had a brain injury. Spinal fluid was leaking into his brain and mouth. Doctors said trying to fix his face was like trying to fix a badly broken eggshell with tape. He had to stay in the hospital for months. He needed many surgeries to fix his face. The NBA was quick to punish Washington. He was thrown out of the game. Later, the NBA gave him the biggest fine ever at that time. He had to pay $10,000. He also got the longest suspension ever at that time. He could not play for 60 days. That meant he missed 26 games. He did not get paid during this time. The coach of the Houston team was very angry. He called it a sucker punch. He wanted Washington banned for the whole season. The punch was on TV news shows all across America. People were shocked by how violent it was. There were many talks about violence in sports. Some of these talks were about race. Washington is black and Tomjanovich is white. Some people use this to say bad things about black players. These kinds of comments hurt the image of the NBA. Both men had their lives changed by this one moment. Tomjanovich did come back to play basketball the next season. He even became an all-star again in 1979. But his best playing years were cut short. He later became a coach. He led the Houston Rockets to 2 NBA championships in 1994 and 1995. He also coached the U.S. Olympic team to a gold medal in 2000. After the punch, he sued the Lakers. He won over $3 million in court. Washington went back to playing basketball after his suspension, but the Lakers traded him to the Boston Celtics during that same season. His career continued with other teams. He even became an NBA All-Star in 1980. But people never forgot what he did. He said later that he could not get jobs as a coach or scout because of the punch. He felt that teams would not hire him because they were worried about how fans would react. The NBA made big changes after the punch. They made stricter rules about fighting. They added a third referee to watch the games. They wanted to make the game less violent and improve how people saw the league. Many years later, Washington and Tomjanovich made peace with each other. Washington had said sorry. Tomjanovich forgave him. He said holding on to hate would only hurt himself. This could have been the end of the story. One man who made a terrible mistake, but tried to do better. But that is not how this story ends. Decades after the punch, Washington started a charity. It was called the Sixth Man Foundation. Most people knew it as Project Contact Africa. He said the charity would help poor families and children in Africa. He told people he had visited refugee camps near Rwanda and Uganda. He said he saw how these people needed water, electricity, and medical care. He promised donors that 100% of their money would go directly to charity work in Africa.
Washington profited by diverting funds donated to that charity, hundreds of thousands of dollars meant to benefit the children and needy families in Africa. but instead bankrolled that money for his own profit.
He even put in writing that there were no costs to run the charity. But it was all a lie. Washington took hundreds of thousands of dollars from the charity accounts. He used this money for himself. He spent it on vacations. He bought jewelry, clothes, and furniture. He paid his rent with it. He used it for restaurant meals and groceries. He paid for personal training sessions. He paid credit card bills. He even paid for plastic surgery for his girlfriend. In one very bad case, he said payments were for rent and school fees for a family in Africa. But the money was really going to a former prostitute. How much he paid her depended on what sexual acts she did for him. Washington also did something else very wrong. From 2005 to 2015, he worked for the National Basketball Players Association. He used this job to find former athletes who needed help with workers' compensation claims. He sent these athletes to a lawyer named Ron Mix. Mix was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and now worked as a lawyer. It is against the law to pay someone directly for referring clients. So Mix paid Washington by making fake donations to his charity. Between 2010 and 2013, Mix gave Washington about $155,000 this way. Washington took this money and used it for himself. He did not report this income on tax forms. Mix later pleaded guilty to filing a false tax return. He had wrongly claimed these kickback payments as charity donations. But Washington's crimes went even further. He helped people who were selling illegal software. This was one of the largest software piracy cases ever handled by the U.S. Department of Justice. Washington let these criminals use his charity's name and tax status to run stores on eBay. They sold about $12 million worth of illegal software through the charity's eBay store. This plan helped the criminals in two ways. It let them avoid fees that eBay and PayPal charge regular sellers, but not charities. This cost eBay and PayPal over $900,000. It also tricked customers into thinking their money was going to help people in Africa. Washington got paid at least $82,000 just from one of these criminals. He used this money for himself too. In May 2016, a federal grand jury charged Washington with serious crimes. These included corrupt interference with internal revenue laws, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, obstruction of justice, and aggravated identity theft. If found guilty of all charges, he could have gone to prison for 45 years. At first, Washington said he was not guilty, but later he changed his plea. On November 30th, 2017, he pleaded guilty to 3 felony counts. 2 counts were for making false statements on tax returns. 1 was for aggravated identity theft. The identity theft charge came because he used another person's name and address on forms for the charity without permission. He did this to keep the charity looking legal so he could keep getting donations. On July 9, 2018, when he was 66 years old, Washington was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. The judge also ordered him to pay $967,000 to pay back what he owed. He went straight to prison after the sentencing. He was set to be released in August 2023. The charity fraud showed just how low Washington had fallen. This was not one bad moment like the punch. This was years of planned crimes. He lied to donors. He took advantage of his connections. He helped criminals sell illegal software. He stole money meant for poor families in Africa. He even stole someone's identity, all to make money for himself. Some people might have felt sorry for Washington after the punch. They might have seen him as a good person who made one terrible mistake in the heat of the moment. But the charity fraud changed that view completely. It showed a man who would carefully plan to trick people for years. It showed someone who would steal from those trying to help the poor. It showed someone who would lie on official forms and steal another person's identity. Kermit Washington's life story now has 2 dark chapters. The first is a moment of shocking violence that hurt another player terribly. The second is years of calculated crime that betrayed people's trust. Together, these 2 events have destroyed any good he did as a basketball player. Kermit Washington went from being an NBA All-Star to a federal prison inmate. His name will always be linked to that one punch and to his years of charity fraud. He had talent as a basketball player, but that is not his legacy. Instead, he will be remembered for the punch that broke a man's face and the fraud that broke people's trust.